I think that's really a good suggestion, a good recommendation for us is that, and I think all of us go through that where we just kind of relax, we get up that set, we get a break, or we're up a break in the third or whatever it is, and we start to kind of take the pedal off the metal a little bit, so to slow it down. And I really like what you say there, Doctor, that you've got to try to get another break. You got to keep this thing going, and yet you need to find a way to do this without rushing to the finish line. And so tell us a little bit about your new book, which is titled Tennis Winning the Mental Match. And I've looked at your description of the I think it's 14 chapters, and there's so much good stuff in there. Tell us really what's going on. Why'd you write the book, and what are we going to get out of it?
Okay, well, I will with great pleasure do that. I wanted to add one more thing as we were talking about how many breaks you need and so forth.
Sure.
The trick actually is to focus very short term. Like to me, the idea was I want to win this next game, period. End of story. I mean, I want, if it's a service, if the guy's serving, I want to break his serve. I want that game. I try not to think about too much about whether I was going to win the match or lose the match. It was just more breaks, more service holds, just one at a time. Try to get it. Anyway.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the real issue there is that you've got to think short term. You cannot think long term. You can't be thinking about, geez, the consequences of winning this or winning that. You really got to think short term, and I think you're right. You got to look at it from point to point. And if you get this game, all right, that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
You got to keep pushing.
You got to get the next game.
Right. Good.
Yeah. Each one's a little individual battle that you have to fight out as hard as you can. And then on you go. And the book, the essence of it is that I have been consulting with players, pros. Actually, I coach one of the players on the ATP tour, a Russian named Igor Knitsin, by the way, who's playing the Queen's tournament. He won his first round. I do much of it by telephone.
Oh, okay, all right.
He's ranked about 75 in the world, and he has exactly the same problems that everybody listening in has, that I have, and that recreational players have, and elite juniors have. And so in consulting and coaching, over the years, I keep running into the same stuff. And so I've had a lot of experience trying to go after these issues, the choking, the confidence, the excuses, the tanking, the anger, all of those things, and tried various approaches. And so I just know more than I used to know. I made one attack on the mental game. My first book was "If I'm the Better Player, Why Can't I Win?" Written in the late 70s, and it was what I knew at that time. But there's been a lot of water under the bridge, and I can now see more global issues as to why all these things happen and what's really going on the court. That was good for its day. So I wanted to get all this information down while I was still standing upright. And,
okay. Tell us, I'm really intrigued with chapter 14, which is the psychology of doubles. And, I really like what you say there in the description about that your presence in the court, the way you handle things, the way that you look, the way that you sound, all of these things can help your partner play better. Tell us, tell us a little bit about that, because I really believe that, and I think so many, recreational players, amateur players, especially those who are trying to improve, let's say as senior players, or maybe 3-5, 4-0, even 4-5 players. I really think that they can help their partner play better by what you're saying. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, Doctor?
Yeah, when you've got like two problems in doubles. One is yourself, making your game function at maximum efficiency. And second, you got your partner. A lot of people, weirdly enough, they have this tendency to not build up their partner or to even, tear down their partner. with their actions on court. So you have to have in mind, number one, you're trying to do the best you can with your game. These are the axioms. I like axioms because when people get into matches, they get emotional, and so they mustn't try to logic it through at that point. They have to just go back to the axioms. Axiom number two is you've got to do everything you can to get your partner playing well as your partner can play. Because if they don't, you're going to lose, and nobody's going to be terribly interested in the fact that it might have been your partner's fault. You know,
Yeah.
people think that if it's not their fault, then they didn't really lose. They don't feel so bad about it. So their partner loses serve a couple times, they lose the match, and they run and tell everybody that, well, I didn't lose my serve, my partner lost his serve or her serve, and they think that they can feel better doing that. They don't. When they do it, they don't realize two little things. Number one, nobody cares whether your partner lost his serve or not. Secondly, actually, they don't even care whether you won or not. More
To be more accurate.
More
That's right.
Yeah, no one's interested in your excuses, and they just think less of you for them. And secondly, your results are not as important to other people as they are to you. Other people are more interested in their own results.
That's right.
As opposed to yours. In any case, everybody is very good at picking up body language. We're a social species, and gesture and body language, we're programmed to understand that very well. And so if it's hurting you, if you're wincing, if you're thinking negative thoughts about your partner, you know, why did they do this? Or how did they double fault? Or I'm having to do all the work, or whatever. If you're thinking negative thoughts, what will happen before it's all over is that's going to be transmitted to your partner, and your partner's going to play worse. So it's not just a matter of biting your lip when your partner makes an error and maybe bleeding from the bite. It's you have to recognize that you mustn't feel it. You have to look at your partner as an asset, somewhat like you look at your forehand. Your partner, you've got to do everything. For instance, it doesn't have to be a 50-50 deal in a doubles match. It's every person does whatever they can. If one does 60 and the other does 40, that's fine. Object is to win the match, the both of you. If you don't think your partner's doing well enough, then get another partner next time. But once you walk out on the court, your partner is like your forehand. And so if your forehand's your weaker side, if you get upset with your forehand for missing, you know, it's going to hurt the rest of your game.
Sure.
And it's not going to help your forehand either. And so you have to approach it that your partner's doing the best he or she can, and you forget about any errors they make because they're trying to do their best. And you've got to legitimately try to help them and make them feel good and treat them well. And so that's where it starts. The great players, by the way, are like that. The insecure player is the one that's really worried about whether their partner is good enough or making too many mistakes or not. Just as the insecure person is awfully worried about whether their forehand is going to make them lose. And so take it as a sign of weakness. If you find yourself wincing, don't think the problem is your partner. The partner is what your partner is. The problem is your own insecurity. And that's the ability. The great players or the successful people have the ability to look at their own weaknesses and try to fix them, rather than to look outside and blame factors that are outside of their control. I mean, if your partner's not that good, so be it.
Right.
Then you have to do more and build them up even more.
Yeah, I go back to Steve Cornell, and you know, there have been times when I've gone through a stretch of 20 or 30 minutes, I can't get a ball in the court, and this guy could not be more positive. I mean, he's doing the opposite of what I've seen, you know, a lot of players do, where they're, like you say, they're kind of wincing and this and that and kind of rolling their eyes, and then they stop talking to you. You know, he does the opposite. He lets you know that, you know, we're in this thing together, and there are going to be times when he's not going to play great. So, you know, take your time, work through it, that he'll be there by your side. And I think that's the kind of thing I would love to see, a lot of the web tennis folks do more of, and it's reality. You're to get yourself into doubles matches, even if it's with a long, standing partner where either you or your partner are just having a lousy day. And it's just life. It's just going to happen that way from time to time. And the best way to help out your partner, I think, is exactly what you're saying, Doctor, is you really have to make sure that they feel good.
And also, it's very helpful to tell your partner, look, you'll play. I have confidence, and you don't worry. You can miss as many as you want. I know you'll play better. Because the other thing is that during the match, you don't know how well your partner is gonna play. You know how well he's played or she's played so far, but I mean things change. And if you're getting negative and down on your partner, they're gonna play worse. You're just gonna make them play worse. If you're positive and supportive, you can help them play better. I mean, the chances of them upping their game it's a percentage problem. If you treat them well, the chances that they'll improve is higher. Similarly with your forehand. I mean, you could look at it that way. I mean, you're missing your forehand. If you get down about it, oh, my forehand's terrible. It's a bad day on my forehand. Well, you don't know it's a bad day.
Right.
Until
right.
the day's over.
Right.
If you get down on it, it's going to be a bad day, and you're going to make it worse. If you don't get down on it, it may turn around.
Have we got time for a question or two from the audience?
Sure.
Let me see. If anyone's got their microphone on and wants to ask Dr. Alan Fox a question, go ahead and raise your hand. I see Jesse with your hand raised. Jesse, I've just unmuted you. What's your question for Dr. Fox?
Hey, Alan, how are you? I appreciate you taking the time. I'm actually a third-year PhD student in sports psychology, and my question to you is, can you provide us with some actual skills or techniques that you teach players when they're struggling, or they're thinking negative, or they're becoming stressed in order to get back present?
I do have techniques for that. You want me to give you a technique?
Well, no. I mean, we all hear different techniques, and I'm wondering what you found works for you with tennis players.
Yeah, I mean, the essential, just recognizing the issue. If we're talking choking, the issue is worrying about the outcome, afraid you're not going to be able to finish. And so, obviously, the best thing you can do is get the question of winning the match or whether you're going to hold serve and so forth away from the front of your mind and shove it to the back of your mind. By the way, the choking issue is an issue that's never solved. You never get past choking. There's nothing you can do to make sure you won't choke. I mean, everybody chokes from time to time. And so this is where the focusing and the rituals and the having a very, very short-term, productive, simple plan in front of you tends to fill your view screen and shove the scary thoughts of whether you're going to win or whether you're not, or whether you're going to miss the serve return or whether you aren't, to the back of your mind. Again, the problem of the choking is one where there's no total solution. It's one of those problems you can either make better or you can make worse. And so you try to make it better, which, there are a number of techniques of relaxation and focusing and ritual that help get you past all these scary thoughts as to whether you're going to win or not.